Hey folks, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Real Talk Fishing with No Limits, brought to you by Seagar High Performance Braids. 7 reels created by St. Croix and Rufflin Kennels, the clear cut cleaning station. It is almost fall, and you all need to have one of these cutting boards in the back of your truck when the fish cleaning stations are closed for the winter, which usually happens October 1st up here in the South Dakota, maybe sooner in other places. You got to have one of these. Clean those fish on your tailgate. Have a bucket. Slick. Very, very smooth. Check them out. RufflinKennels.com. All right. Breaking down the 2026 National Walleye Tour schedule. A lot of opinions. You know what they all say about opinions. We all have one. What have you. I'll give you mine. A lot of controversy, or a lot of chatter, not necessarily controversy, on the 2026 NWT schedule. We'll break it down, but let's start at the beginning. So I've taken a few of the comments off some of the Facebook posts that people had out there. A lot of good conversations, a lot of far out. Some people they don't understand. They don't understand how this goes, who owns what, who's in charge, who makes the schedule, how's the schedule get made, what goes into it. A little background on that. We have a previous podcast with the tournament director from the Walleye Federation, Mr. Jeff Kelm, who is also the tournament director and the MC for the National Walleye Tour. And Jeff kind of talks about some of that schedule making that, they have to do and things that have to go into play while they are the company that runs the tournaments, and they also run a lot of tournaments, so you got to go around their schedule. I don't know what the priority is or how that all works. That's above my pay grade. Which would be any bit of pay. So, but let's start at the beginning and educate everybody a little bit. Aren't facts. These are my opinions, the best of my knowledge. I talk to some of these people in these higher places, and this is what they say. Doesn't necessarily mean that is all true, but we'll break it down the best I can, give you a little bit of an idea on how this all comes about. So we'll go back to the beginning. NWT is owned by Bass Pro Shops. Let's say, I don't know the percentage, 80-20. They're hands down, Bass Pro, Cabela's, whatever you call it. Johnny Morse is the largest majority owner of the National Walleye Tour. It's traded kind of some hands and stuff, I think, over the years. But more or less, right now where we're at, Johnny owns this thing. Small portion, let's just call it 80-20. Carico TV. Wade Middleton, Kevin, I'm not sure what Kevin's last name is. You've seen him around. Great dude. One of the cameramen in our boats most of the time doing this stuff. He's a good dude. I believe him and Wade are partners, part of this Carico TV, which produces the National Walleye Tour television show that you watch either on TV or on YouTube. I did just happen to notice all the older NWT YouTubes are back on. They're back. They're loaded back up. I don't know what that means, what happened, or where they disappeared, and only the last few years was on there. And now they're all back on there. So that's good. So y'all want to watch those and see some of the fishing that took place, some of the other lakes. They're there. They're available. So Bass Pro is the owners of it. They make the rules. They set the payouts. They set the schedule. Okay. Who at Bass Pro at this point does that stuff? I have no idea. A lot of people kind of come and go through there. Since I talked to people there, one of those head guys has moved on. His helpers has moved on. I think there's some new people coming in, obviously, and they're just kind of shaking the things up there to keep this train growing. The reality is, if it's not for them, there is no circuit. So you can complain and gripe and bitch about it all you want. There is no National Walleye Tour unless Bass Pro and Johnny Moore step up and do this stuff and make it happen. So appreciate that. Make a lot of things in the tournament world and the outdoor world happen. So, talk about the Cabela's purchase years ago. There wouldn't be a Cabela store around if Johnny Morris didn't purchase them. They would all been sold off separately, broken, whatever. They could have turned into Lord knows what, but there wouldn't be any more Cabela's. So be glad for it, because they're obviously still in business and making money, which means there's a lot of people going there, period. So that's where they're at with that. Okay, I'm told they make the payouts. They're the ones, right? And, the checks come from the federation, but they're in charge. So they make the rules. And they say they set the schedule. The tournament director and MC is Jeff Kelman. That is what he is. He is the MC and works for the Walleye Federation, who is hired to manage the National Walleye Tour's tournaments. And that is owned by Robert Carledge. Robert Carledge has given Jeff the reins to be the tournament director and the MC. That's it. That's Jeff's job. Do what he's told on the director side by the rules that Bass Pro puts in place. And then by the direction that his boss gives him from the Walleye Federation, and then be the MC. He doesn't make the schedule. He doesn't make the rules. None of that. It's tournament director's job to enforce those rules to the level that they can enforce it, depending on how long a leash they have. Ultimately, all of that comes back to Bass Pro. The Walleye Federation has been around for quite a while. I remember meeting with them back in my Nebraska Walleye Association days years ago. They actually flew into Cabela's when it was just Cabela's. This is 05, maybe, let's say. Laura Herpelsheimer from Cabela's, Chris Spangler, and then Robert Carledge all flew in there, drove in from Kearney, Medicine, Omaha, broke down what the Walleye Federation was, how it was going to happen. The Walleye Federation then created the NTC out of it. The NTC may have been around prior to that, but that's when they kind of took it over and made it a big deal. And then the whole qualifying through the federation to get into the NTC and all that stuff was a good deal. You could pay $600 for a club at the time. You had like 12 members, and you got into their umbrella insurance, and it saved the organizations a lot of money. I dug into the insurance. It was pretty legit. It was a pretty good policy. That has changed since then, by the way, if you're looking to join the federation. But the Walleye Federation was fairly new at that time, or was new, but the Bass Federation, which had been around for a long time. So you hear TWF, TBF, same company, Robert Carledge owns them both. Robert Carledge also purchased the Masters Walleye Circuit from Cabela's and owns that. That's free. So the Walleye Federation management crew owns the Masters Walleye Circuit. That's not a Bass Pro or Cabela's thing. They're a sponsor. NTC, they're a big sponsor, big contributor, big supporter, owned by Robert Carledge and his company. Outdoor Teamworks, I think, maybe is what they call that. Yeah, so that's that. So they have bass tournament schedules. They have the walleye schedules. I believe they used to run the Mercury one. I believe AIM guys do that now, maybe. I can't remember. There's a handful of other tournaments, along with high school bass fishing, regional bass fishing, the walleye stuff, and just a handful of other things. So how did that come about with the whole scheduling? Right, so they got to find communities. They have a dollar amount set in mind. Used to be around 10 grand. I don't know what it is now. I have no idea. Could be way more, could be less, could be whatever they offer to be the host community. That's what you'd pay the National Walleye Tour. They'd bring tour there. A little bit more to it than just that, obviously. Need some hotel rooms, need this, need that. When you bring in 100 plus anglers for a week, those communities are bringing in $500,000 plus. Devil's Lake has done some surveys on just championships when it was not top 40. It was like 80 usually. And they were coming around with 400,000. Well, that's a smaller group. So I'm going to say you're, in the 400,000 to 600,000 for a community. Great deal to bring a tournament to a community. And a lot of these are smaller communities. Sometimes the locals don't like it because it's kind of hectic there for a week and the boat ramps are packed and catching a lot of fish, hopefully. But if you own a business in those communities, you love it. And we love coming there. So Bass Pro would have a marketing sales type person in charge of that stuff, sponsorship, out there trying to find sponsorship for the NWT circuit, trying to find these communities, working with these communities, doing all this stuff, trying to put things together. Okay. You're like, well, why don't you go to this place? Why don't you go to that place? Well, sometimes they don't want you to come. Now, that may not matter. You can go anyway. You can fish these waters, but it's really nice to have the support of that community. You want it. They want the money, obviously, as a sponsor, but you want to feel welcome. You want to be supported by that community. So sometimes, and then the community may have a big festival going on or a big something else going on that time of year. It's not a good time to come. So please don't come in May or June, whatever. We have this and this going on. There's not going to be lodging because there's this other giant 4-day music festival. And there's, we have tons of people coming to town. It's packed. So all that kind of goes into play, working with these communities, chambers, Department of Economic Development, whatever it may be. And this should be Bass Pro setting the schedule stuff, but you also have to figure the Walleye Federation has to run these tournaments, and they run all these other tournaments. Okay, so whose schedule gets made first? Bass Federation, all this? I have no idea. They got to say, we have all these dates set. We have all these dates set. We have to plug and play. We got to fit in here somewhere. And then we got to find a community or a fishery that we can go to. We have May 12th through 18th available. And we're already going to be in Michigan, to make life easier on them. Is there some place in this region that we can go to so we can go from an MWC event, a bass event, and then just roll right in? Because I'm pretty sure once summer kind of rolls in, these guys are just on the road the whole time. I'm sure there's a day or two down day here or there they get to go home.
Hey folks, Brian Bashore here with Clean Cut Cutting Boards. This thing is awesome. I always carry one along with me in the truck for days like today where I find myself just getting off the water. We got a couple, nice walleyes that we kept to eat for tonight. And the fish cleaning station is broke down, or a lot of times early spring and in the fall they're closed, right? A lot of places people don't have fish cleaning stations, or whether you're somewhere really remote, you're back at your cabin or your camper, you find yourself after a good day of fishing, you got some fish to clean and you don't have anywhere to do it. I always have this clean cut in the back of my truck, ready to go anywhere. That's what's awesome about them. They come in 2 different sizes, a variety of colors to meet your needs. These things are just all purpose and on the go. You can flip this thing over, and if you're having a big gathering or something, it's basically got a big bowl on the back to put your pulled pork in it. You can make a vegetable tray, whatever it may be. It is more than just a cutting station. It is a very, very versatile, durable unit made by Rufflin Kennels. So check them out over at rufflinkennels.com for the Clean Cut Cutting Station. Try it out. I guarantee you're going to love it like I do.
Not our problem with the walleye anglers. We don't really care what your schedule is with the bass stuff, and we don't really care if you don't want to travel far. Not our concern. Our concern is where we going and when we go in there. But I get it. You got to work around your schedule. It makes it possible for you to get to these things so you're not driving from, Dunkirk, New York to Sakakawea next week, then back to Green Bay. Okay, it doesn't make a lot of sense for the ownership or management, I should say, to do that kind of traveling. They're obviously spending, a lot of money and expenditures and time, and it's pretty exhausting to spend that amount of time on the roads. But as anglers, not our problem. We got to go there and there and there regardless. So we just don't have to do some of those things in between except get back and go to work or whatever the case may be. So that's kind of how that works. And, you see them, they bring on some new sponsors. What does that mean to the anglers? We saw that last year. They brought in Walleye Nations. They brought in Rapala. Great for the circuit. Nothing to the anglers. Anglers didn't see any of that. We don't see any product, any lures, any money. That's going to go back to whoever brought them in, and I'm sure that helps them on their back end, on their operating, and therefore they can keep the payouts where they have it. Maybe they roll that into the championship payout this year because the numbers were so bad. They're not charging the pros for entry fees, but we haven't seen the payout schedule for the championship because hopefully it's the same. I doubt it. You need 125 boat average is what those numbers are based on, and I think they averaged like 80, low 80s. So those numbers are going to come down considerably unless Johnny steps up and makes up the difference, which he's had to do the last couple of years. It was pretty minor. This year, not so minor. It's a pretty big deficit, but we'll see. I don't know. That's their business. It's their money. It's their pocketbook. We'll let them figure it out. The anglers are qualified still for entry. They're going to go fish it. I'm sure the top couple 3 places are still the same, but then the payouts shrink, pretty drastically. Like you saw this year, I know some guys that got like a 10th or 12th place, and it was like a $3,200 check. That's not good. But the payout schedule is set on 125 boats. You don't get 125 boats, you get a lot smaller payout. It doesn't go as deep. That kind of snowballs. You start getting smaller payouts. You get less people to attend. You get less people to attend. Payouts tend to get smaller and smaller, and you're paying less field. I personally would love to have 150, 200 boats, more competition, more payout, a deeper field to pay out at 25%, the 1 in 4, which they made that change a year ago. So that was great. But that's that. So you got the federation that's in charge of receiving the entries, making sure all that's coming in, and then running the tournament, and then enforcing the rules that are written in place as is. And if there's anything that comes up, they're pretty much having to communicate with Bass Pro and see how they want to proceed. That's what I've been told, and that's what we had seen happen over the years when anything had ever kind of arisen in a sense. So people that don't understand it, that's what kind of goes into it. It's pretty complex. There's a lot of stuff. Not a very thankful job being a tournament director. You're the guy that's, loved or hated or whatever the case is, because you're the enforcer of things. Jeff does fine. I personally wish he had a little longer leash to do make some harder decisions himself right on the spot. Not my job. That's his. So does what he can with it. So that's it. Bass Pro owns it. Majority stake in the circuit. Make the rules. Make the payouts. Determine the schedule. I believe that a very, very big influence on the schedule is the Walleye Federation. Obviously, because they only have so many available dates with the other commitments they have with their other tournaments and things that they own and they're going to do. And I'm sure that's their priority since they're hired to run this. They give them the dates, say, we got to fill in here. We would like to go to these places. They have a lot of relationships with these communities through the MWC stuffs and NTC. They've been doing those, tournaments have been going to some of these places for years. Why don't we go to, let me get to this here. My opinion on the schedule. I don't hate it. Not at all. Way better than this year's. This year's was horrible. Only fished 2. Not driving to Dunkirk, not driving to Huron. As great as fisheries those are, or at least Dunkirk, Huron, so. I want to have fun. Huron can be windy. The pros, the anglers got really blessed with some nice weather this year, which is great, which then makes you go, dang it, wish I would have went. You never know. You just got to commit to the 4. You're going to go do it. I knew it immediately when the schedule came out. I'm not participating in it. I've done fishing tournament. Has just been bad. Need to stay home, need to work more. Looks like a good year to take a little time off, reset, and make money working instead of traveling and just, those are long drives. That's a lot. I mean, I think it was like 90 hours on the road if you figure out the whole season. And that's, it's a couple weeks, behind the wheel. Fortunately, gas prices haven't dropped a whole lot. Hotels and VRBOs, Airbnbs prices haven't came down a lot. Food hasn't come down a lot. So, nor probably will it ever. That's just kind of how those things work. So it's expensive to do it. Thankfully, I have a great team of sponsors and support staff. I'm able to do what I can and still have one more tournament up here in Secaucus at the end of September. Issues with the schedule or concerns or just kind of moments. Green Bay and Beta back to back. I'm cool with Beta. Always wanted to go there. Got a good reason. Just drove by it in July. I'm like, man, I got to go there. The place is known for some big fish. Not hating it. Not liking the fact that we go right down to Green Bay, which theoretically is the same fishery in a sense if you want to drive a long ways like we did last time there. Back-to-back tournaments. That's kind of consensus of amongst everybody. We don't know what the rules will be for that fishery. I would like to see it, and I would imagine they would do so. And if I was a host community, I would require it so that people are staying in my community instead of 90 miles somewhere else where maybe the bite's better. Because the whole purpose of being a host community is I want you to be in my town, my community, and go to our local establishments and eat and groceries and gas and what have you. The Beta could just be Michigan waters, and the Green Bay tournament could just be Wisconsin waters. And they're kind of split like this, and therefore you have 2 completely different fisheries in a sense. Same body of water somewhat, doing a lot of the same stuff, but you can't go from one, you can't fish one or the other, or fish them both in one tournament. It's one or the other. So I don't know. I think a lot of guys were kind of speculating that hopefully they do that. That would make some sense. And boundaries, we've been asking for them for a while. So that would kind of help create a boundary. And the Green Bay one usually, I think Silcano usually does have one, the Brown County line, and then kind of up by Washington Island, whatever. So that's that. Mobridge in May. Honestly, being in South Dakota, you'd think I'd be pretty stoked about this Mobridge tournament, and I am, and I think it'll be fine, but it's, least favorite one on the schedule, honestly. Any other time of year, probably Mobridge in May. There's a lot of variables in there. Could be beautiful out, could be clean, could be super muddy and miserable as well. We have no idea, and there's no way of knowing. So that's just kind of the way some of these tournaments are. They kind of left going to the Mississippi River earlier in May because we tried that 2 years in a row, and it was the flood stages, and it wasn't good to go, so they had to re-rack last minute. The Missouri River is usually that's not an issue. A spring runoff. What is just weather and sometimes dirty, muddy water. But I think we'll figure it out. It's a huge body of water, so I think guys will be able to just figure it out. And it's been great. Big fish, right? It's a slot tournament. Your 2 over 20s have got to be big over 20s. I'm talking like 8+ pounds. I don't know about May. You just don't really hear a lot about May. Those fish move up to Bismarck and spawn, and hopefully they're back down. But I'm sure there's plenty of resident and local fish. We had Chad out chilling on here a while ago, and I don't know if we talked about May much, but we'll probably have him again before that tournament and get a little breakdown of it. So definitely pays to beat Chad or Bo Healing for that tournament. But nonetheless, it'll be fun just as long as the weather's fair. But, it's close to home for me, so I'm digging that. Still a 4-hour drive. Why don't we have Minnesota water tournaments ever? Was some of the questions. Why don't we ever go to Minnesota? NWT goes to Minnesota. They'll be going to Cass Lake soon. I think they've done some leech. We did, I think our last one in Minnesota, we did Ottertail. We did the championship, and that was September, I think, late September. So Minnesota's got some tournament rules. Like, I don't know. There's tournaments there all year long, so clearly you can have tournaments. Most of those are catcher and photo release type things. AIM goes there all the time. The Minnesota Tournament Trail is obviously in Minnesota. We were there in Lake of the Woods for the championship, and I think that was actually in August years back. It's just there's a lot of different variables and all the kind of it's not the same throughout the whole state is the way I understand it. I know come September, you can go back to catch and release tournaments. South Dakota has that here. Once after September 15th, we can go back to catch and release. June 1st to September 15th is kill tournaments. But Minnesota's got just a lot of variables, and a lot of those lakes have a 3-fish limit, a 2-fish limit, 4. Everyone's kind of different. It's a little bit of a challenge. I don't know. I mean, we did that a year ago where Willie kept 3 fish in Green Bay, and fortunately, 3 fish was hard to come by, so it worked out. But yeah, I still think we can go to Minnesota. Ottertail Championship was great. Championship is a 40-boat field. We don't need a 100-mile stretch of Missouri River. We don't need a Lake Erie for 40-boat field. Ottertail was the best championship we've had to date. Small lake. I didn't even see the 2 or 3 boats that won it, that were up there, McQuaid and Wynn and whoever else, and Hurd were on. It's not that big, 8 miles, but it's big enough for 40 boats. You didn't see some of the people. So it was nice. You camped, your hotels or whatever were right dang near on the water. The water was low, but it was manageable. Minnesota's got the 1 rod rule, so that kind of sucks, but it was fine. And nowadays with living on the live scope, 1 rod's plenty anyway. So something like that is good. The rumor was coming back to South Dakota this year at Bidder for the championship, and I see Bidder's on the MWC schedule, but not the NWT schedule. So NWT is going to Lake Skakawea. Favorite fishery. Love it. Looking forward to it. Unfortunately, you're missing out on an opportunity to get 100+ boats in a regular season event. So going there for the championship is a little ridiculous. Fishing will be good. Looking forward to it either way. You can fish probably anywhere you want to be on that lake at that time, close to launch. I'm sure it's out of Garrison probably, or you can run, 50, 60 miles up river and Van Hook and even further if need be. But just not, it's a missed opportunity. You could have had 100+ boat field. Mindset is thinking, all right, we'll get North Dakota turns out pretty good. Maybe we'll get these guys to sign up for all 4 events so they can make the championship back home. I don't think it's going to work that way. I know a lot of those guys, and they would love to, and they'll say they're going to, but when it comes to do it, they're not gonna. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll pick up a couple. But it's not. You're not going to lose any out of that core. 60 or so. I mean, I'm all in for next year. Looking forward to it. That are going to fish all those 4. But you want to bring in some new ones every year, somehow, some way. And so reach a new market, but. Nonetheless, that's where the championship's going to be. It's going to be good. There's going to be good bags. It's going to be good fishing. It's just kind of a missed opportunity to get a bigger field up there on a regular season event. Even there in May would be phenomenal, even though it could be a long ride. If you go out of Garrison, I mean, there's other places to go out of, people. But that is one of the bigger communities. Williston is on the upper end, which I'll be going out of there here in September. Pretty big community. Lewis Clark State Park Boat Ramp, Big Ten Showdown goes out of there. Sign up, best tournament you'll ever get in. That's coming up in September. Jeff's still taking applications. Shameless plug here. Big Ten Championship, Lake Skakawea, September 27, 28, something like that. Check it out. Sign up. $1,000 entry fee, $30,000 first place prize. If it fills up, 100 boats. Good tournament. Ran great, smooth, great people. Steak and potato, pre-rules meeting, dinner, that Thursday or Friday night, whatever it may be. So many door prizes. Everybody's leaving with something. Just a bunch of great people. Good tournament, running pretty smooth, pretty fast. Pull up while you're fishing, and out you go. Carol, I think if Jim's not fishing, he's emceeing it, does a good job. So it's awesome. So big water for a championship once again. A lot of people kind of been saying, hey, where are we at? Why we keep doing this stuff? But it's none of these are bad waters. They're good fishing. So they're at Green Bay this year. It should be, in the time they're going, should be really good fishing. It's a big body of water. You don't need to go there for 40 boats. I get it. Green Bay shows out, does pretty good. I think it's out of Marinette. They're a really good host community. We've had championships there before, and it was good. You're going to a lot of these bodies of waters to get big fish, right? Making good TV, catching big fish, big weights, big bags, bigger crowds, everything, right? Bigger's better. Loving it. But somewhere new would be really, really nice too. Plus, you would recruit some new anglers from some of these different bodies. Big deal this year was co-anglers and the lack of. Never an issue. You have a waiting list. It always fills up real fast. It's a waiting list. They raised the price to $650 for a co-angler. The last couple of tournaments, they were searching for co-anglers. Once the registration process is closed, they were still short, 6 to 10 co-anglers for each tournament. They found the people that filled the slots. However, they did that. They got them in there. So every pro had a boater. They didn't have to turn any pros away. You do not want to do that. And I don't foresee them ever doing that. There's plenty of ways around it, because you don't want to have to give them their money back, right? You want the money, and everybody wants those people there so that the payouts are better. A lot of reason, a lot of speculation on why the co's, we've heard this on several podcasts, aren't signing up. It's live scope. I get it. It is lame. If you aren't the one in control on the boat, sharpshooting. You're standing in the back, kind of doing nothing.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about this new line that Seaguar introduced this year. It's been on the market for a couple years, but it's been over in Japan. They just brought it over to the United States this year, and I absolutely love it. It's called PEX8. This is by far the thinnest diameter braid I have ever used. This is still an 8-strand braided line with such a thin diameter. It's unbelievable. I'm using an 18-pound test today, and it feels like 2 pound. The advantages to this thin diameter is, if it's windy out, I'm not catching much wind, I get less bow in the line. High pressure situations where the fish are, taking on a lot of fishing pressure, a thinner diameter line, less visible, of course. Current in the rivers, I'm going to cut the current a little better. I'm going to get better control, and they did all this without losing any of its strength. This stuff is still strong as all the Seaguar braided lines, and the sensitivity is second to none. So check this out. This PEX8 over at seaguar.com.
Alrighty, we're back. We lost connection there at Wi-Fi, the camper. It's not great. So anyway, lack of co-anglers. If you're getting in these events as a co-angler, $650 is 2 days of fishing. Okay, you can't take a guide trip for 2 days for $650. I know I'm a guide. It's going to cost you $1,200. It's going to cost you $1,000 to $1,500 for a 2-day fishing trip with an outfitter, period. Obviously, you got to buy your fishing license. You got a little travel, a night or two of lodging. That's it. Okay, you're a guest in this guy's boat. You're the other angler. Every pro is going to treat it a little different. Some are going to be very team-like. Get up here on the bow with me and cast when I say, whatever the case may be. If we're in a target-rich environment like Dunkirk, New York, or Lake Huron or something like that. Sharp and Mississippi River fell a little different this year, where the co-angler was very involved with us, and if the guy's trolling, then you're definitely involved. Or the willow cat rigging and all that kind of stuff that was happening up on in La Crosse. Co-angler's very involved, and especially considering the no party fishing rule, the co-angler, has to catch one of these bigger fish for you to compete. So very much a team thing. Fishing is a very individual sport. But in these formats where you have an amateur in the boat, you might as well embrace it. And this is your team for that day, even though he's on new team tomorrow with a new pro. You still want to maximize his skill level, but understanding, what that person's skill level is. But be prepared for the 2026 schedule. If you're signing up, there's a pretty good chance you're going to be live scoping. Now, I would say darn near every one of the pros, including myself, have a shuttle and a pole mount in the back of their boat. It's tricky. You can use it and you can catch fish, but when the guy on the bow is chasing them down and zigzagging and doing whatever, you're not super effective back there. Unless you're at a very target-rich environment like Lake Erie or something. I always tell Dakota, hey, let me know if you're on one. Basically means you have one tracking your bait and it's about to bite. So I don't, floor it and punch away and pull out. Otherwise, the pro's just going to do what they got to do. Ideally, I'm not a big fan of that after doing it for a while. I'd rather have you on the bow and then showing you, and just we'll alternate kind of who's casting at what. Because you're going to miss some casts, and it helps if a guy follows that up right away. So it does work pretty good. But every pro's going to do it different. It may have you in the back dragging a bottom bouncer or a jig or who knows, right? It may be windy out and the guy can't scope in the high winds and you end up cranking and it's all hands on deck with that co. So, but just, you got to have the mindset that you're paying this $650 to go and learn. I'm not going with anticipation of winning. You might as well take your $650, go to the casino and put it on black or red or whatever and let that roulette wheel spin, and you have just as good a chance of winning money doing that as you do signing up, hoping on it. It's complete random draw who you get paired with, and then if that boat pro is on them or not, basically, or getting it for you. So it's $650 education and experience. That's what it is. Absorb it, ask some questions. Maybe in the morning before you take off, feel free to hang out afterwards and talk to your pro. Maybe not as much on the water. Some guys are chatties and some aren't. Me, I'm not. And I tell you that before we go, that it's pretty much head down. It's go time. It's not the pro's job to teach you all day on the water. You can book a guide trip for that $1,200, $1,000, $1,500 and be educated. But a tournament day isn't really that time to be, giving you really in-depth hands-on teaching moment. However, it's still a teaching moment and it's more of a visual from you, and feel free to ask some questions. Every pro's different. You'll get the vibe. You'll fill it out and be like, yeah, this is what I'm looking at. This is why I'm here. This is why I'm looking at it, for what I see and why I'm using what I'm using. Perfectly good. But really kind of look at how they're doing their scope and how they're set up, how they position their boat, which is really what that comes down to big time, is your boat position. Before they make a cast, how close they get in. You can observe all these things without saying a word. But not to say you can't. Fill them out. Feel free to ask the pro. We're just anglers and dudes and like everybody else. So, hey, is it cool if I ask you these things, blah, 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 what have you? Good to go? Yeah, you bet. No problem. You don't even have to ask. I'm going to tell you. Or might be like, let's get out the questions out of the way now. Ask me things, and some of us are going to get some tunnel vision on the water, but not everybody's just like that. Everybody's a little different. But just get to know them. They're all good dudes, all cool guys. But be prepared for that, and those should be your expectations. They always codes are complaining about, we want to hire a pal. You got to hire a pal. We want the boat back. When the pros say, we don't want them to have anything because we don't want you vested in it at that level, because if you have a pro that is bending the rules, you're receiving that weight, and you're more likely not to report those violations because you benefited from it because you're chasing money. That's kind of our take. It's my take. I agree with it with a lot. That's not the whole point of the amateur thing. It's called amateur because it's a stepping stone up. Some people are using it as a stepping stone, some aren't. Is it awesome to have a higher payout or a prize for you guys for contributing and doing stuff? You bet. And do you deserve it? You bet. Does it need to be more? I don't know. Some complain about the level. Well, we pay this and we don't get a very small percentage back. Yep. That's how it's designed. So you fund the pros in the championship. That's why it's a no entry championship, and of how they've done that over the years and have made that change. And it's a great change versus it's always been a pay to play thing. Now you really got to qualify for it, which changes the strategy and method that a lot of people fish throughout the season. Some will go conservative just to make the cut, when it comes down to the wire, and some will just go for it all because it doesn't matter. I'm in the championship regardless because I fished 3 events or 4 events, and I just got to pay another entry fee and I'm in. So it's a great deal. But it is a pro circuit, pro am circuit, so the amateurs are there, part of a team. I don't think that conversation is ever going to go away. You ask a lot of pros, we'd like to not have the amateurs in the boat, but that's not going to happen. Some say that, why don't you just get rid of them if you're having a number? Well, they won't. They told me they won't because it's a safety issue. We fish big waters. Well, let's stop going to big waters. Maybe, I don't know. We need to have those 2 people in the boat. I'm like, why? So 2 can drown versus 1, or if they're supposed to be a marshal, then put them in there as a marshal, which basically means they're the eyes on to make sure there's no funny business going on. But the way it's set up is it's not set up that way. The way it's set up is the co-angler is a angler in the boat. So we are a team for the day. And we're going to do our best to incorporate you and involve you and do what we can. But there is no promises and guarantees that all of that is going to happen and going to be what you want it to be. I think a lot of guys have had some bad experiences with that since obviously the live scoping, but trust me, they've had bad experiences before that. And then some have totally embraced it and said, this is great. This is more than I expected. I learned so much. I sponged it all in. It was awesome. But that guy that says that went in with the right mindset, and that's how you need to approach it. If you're going in another way, you're going to be disappointed. I'll tell you, unless you get a couple lucky draws and you win a bunch of money, even though you just sat in the back of the boat, you're probably still going to be happy. That's it. That's my little take on the co-angler stuff. We have plenty of these podcasts where we kind of talk about co-anglers. This is the last one with David Landsteiner, talked about his journey from being a co to a pro. Things have definitely changed over that time frame. But the co-angler stuff isn't going away anytime soon. It won't be. If ever. So we covered that. Same locations each year. Yes, we would love to see some new bodies of water. There's always McConaughey. There's Bull Shoals. There's Table Rock. There's all these stuff down south. There's just a lot more bodies of water, like the Minnesota waters. If that means we can't go till September in championship, whatever the case is, I think Mississippi River is pretty well liked by everybody. Everybody loves these South Dakota, North Dakota reservoirs and doubles. I mean, these are some of the best fisheries. Love going there. Going to Green Bay as often as we do gets a little old. It's good fishery. It's a challenging fishery in a sense, but it does have some big fish and can be fun. So, and that's, yes, we would love to see that change, period. And the anglers have expressed their opinion on that over and over again. My take on it is you involve new communities, you get new exposure. And if you go to new places, you get new people that sign up and get into tournaments. Like the guy that just won Dunkirk, his first time he jumped in. He'll probably jump in some more now. He had a great experience. You go to McConaughey, you're going to bring in more Nebraska guys and a whole bunch from Colorado that are going to jump in that tournament. And they'll get a taste for it and be like, I'm going to do this again. And if I do well, I'm going to roll that money and I'm going to go to the next one and the next one and the next one. It's how you grow things in sports. We're the National Walleye Tour. It doesn't feel like it's a Premier League. Part of that I can tell you is by having the same organization that runs the Masters Walleye Circuit run the National Walleye Tour. It's not JS fault. It's not their fault. It's just how that worked out. And so there's relationships on those different levels, but it seems when you see the same face and a lot of the same everything, it feels the same. So you feel like it's at that level. And MWC and NWT is full of tons of great sticks, and a lot of them fish both circuits. Considerably smaller venue, payout, everything. Not the time. It's a team thing. It's good if you're just starting out. Go get your feet wet over there. And they have that set up. There's a lot of different tournaments, and you got to fish so many to make, to qualify on points. You don't have to fish all 9 or whatever it is. And you take your best 3 or 4 or whatever. And the top 30 or 40 make the championship. So, Teaching Coast Federation, Renew Con. Yeah. Okay. We covered a lot of that stuff. So, couple quotes that I got, or questions or replies on some. Heiser had a post out there. Courts had a post out there. NWT had a post out there. Kind of gave their opinions, pretty much kind of the same. So let me read this one. I didn't put no names on any of these things. Maybe they need to survey the past co-anglers to get feedback from the source. It's a critical piece of growing the business. So I've heard this several times. The anglers should be surveyed, blah, blah, blah. We have been. used to do surveys every year. Where would you like to see a championship? What bodies of water? And they sent us a big survey last year on, you got any gripes, bodies of waters, where we want to go, we haven't been, what do you want to see? Just, several 20 questions. However, the anglers kind of feel like nobody actually reads those surveys and doesn't seem to be taking any input because we do the same stuff over and over. Is that true? I don't know. I'm sure somebody reads. I'm sure they break it down, and maybe nonetheless, it's got to be in the back of their mind. But a lot of things come down to dollar signs, and sometimes those don't work out. I have an opinion on a lot of that stuff. I think there's a little more effort that needs to be put in, but not everybody has the same work ethic as others. And it kind of drives me nuts because there's a lot of money left on the table, and a lot of things that can be done better. However, it takes money to make money. They had some money. I'm sure that clearly they still do it. We wouldn't still have a circuit. Different bodies of water, smaller bodies of water, you get more anglers, get smaller boats. We do have a minimum size boat limit, and I think there's a maximum, but it's still pretty small, 19 foot, 90 horse or something like that. Opens up more doors to anglers. Yep. Yeah, pros payouts are 79% of the fees just in cash, not including the boat value. And the COs are whatever, I guess. Co-anglers only get less than 52% of theirs just because their money goes to fund the entry fee championship for the pros and the payouts. So if you didn't know that, now you do. That's how that works. Divisions. Maybe you should have an East and West division. I think PWT did this today. We had this discussion a couple of years ago with some of these decision makers. Thought, hey, that's a great idea. Not going to work, though. Don't have the manpower unless you can find a different company to manage the tournaments, because these guys have the bass tournaments and NWT is getting squeezed in, right, whenever they have availability. Well, now you add 4 or 6 more tournaments. You got to find tournament directors, and then you need to have the numbers turn out. It would be great to have an East and West division, and then you can fish all of them if you want. But if you don't want to drive to the East because you live over in Dakotas or vice versa, pick the ones you want, fish your 3 qualifying or whatever it may be, and then you take the top, 10 out of each one of those divisions or 20, and then you have your championship. And then you take, the winners qualify too or what have you. But was discussion. It's worked. A lot of other circuits and things and regions kind of do that. I think it's a manpower thing and cost. And if you break that up, do you only get 60, 80 boats in a field? So maybe you have those and it's cheaper because you can stay closer, but I would expect considerably lower payouts. You're not going to probably have a boat at all 6 of them for winning. Yeah, you got it. There's a lot to it, but once again, you don't know until you put it down on paper, and I don't know the finances or where they're at with all that. Maybe it's completely feasible, maybe it's not. I would say the first hurdle is who's going to run those tournaments. The way it's set up now, I don't believe the Federation has the time to do that. Going into 2026, we don't know who's running the tournaments. Is the Federation running it? We don't know. We're not on the contract negotiation of that, and I'm sure it's a yearly thing that gets renewed or not renewed. We could be in for a surprise, or it could just be the same as it's been the last few years, and we continue on and move forward. I think that's about it. Maybe have an East-West division.
Whatever your skill or experience level is as an angler, you deserve a fishing reel that contributes to your success and satisfaction on the water and never detracts from it. From the makers of St. Croix rods, 7 Reels, spelled SEVIIN, is born of 7 decades of design and manufacturing expertise, industry-leading angler support, and the American family ownership dating back to 1977. 7 Reels are designed and crafted for high performance and unrelenting reliability. Verified at least 16 different ways by extreme torture testing at 7's one-of-a-kind Park Falls, Wisconsin laboratory. 7 Reels are also proven on the water by the most demanding professional guides and tournament anglers. So by the time a 7 reaches your hands, it's ready for anything you throw at it. Guaranteed by the best and easiest warranty in the industry. Disappointment happens, but there should never come as a result of your reel. 7 Reels are tested, proven, and guaranteed to be the most reliable on the planet. Check out the entire lineup at 7reels.com.
It says make payouts 100%. You bet everybody wants to, and in the tournament organization putting on the tournament wants to make it out 100% payout, but you got to have 100% to pay out, which means your expenses and everything else have to be covered, which requires sponsorship dollars. And if you all live in the same country I do, the economy and getting money out of people isn't the greatest thing. We're talking it like it's the best economy ever. It's not bad. I mean, guide business is good. I'm at the camper here at the resort. It's pretty busy. I think life's good for that aspect of it. But when you start dealing with non-endemics and even some endemics in the industry, there's a lot of things going on, and obviously they got tariffs and all these other expenses and costs and turnovers, and people are hiring, some aren't. There's a lot of variables, and a lot of them obviously can't predict the future, but they have to predict the future and plan accordingly. And when things look really bright, money frees up, and those organizations, whether they're endemic or non-endemic, are happy to get involved. There has to be a product to be purchased. Cardenas does, what he can do on the social media side of things, but everything can be done a little better from the ownership side of things. We go to these communities, whether it's an NTC event ran by the Federation, not Bass Pro, a National Walleye Tour event, it's at the rules meeting that an email comes out or a bag of stuff is given to the anglers full of coupons and discounts. It's great. I've been here a whole week. I could have used all of these. Now I'm done. I'm here for 1 or 2 more nights, and those days and nights are booked, right? It's fishing all day, gearing up, getting ready for the next day. None of this is going to happen. Those should come out way before the anglers even get there. We have emails. We have the technology to get that in everybody's hand. And if I'm the host community, I would demand that happen, because it seems to me like a no-brainer. I'd put it in the contract. Effort. Everybody's got to put a little effort and communicate a little bit better on that side. I think you can run a lot better, bigger, more profitable thing. You can do a whole hell of a lot more marketing and media. Does cost money. Does take manpower. So, but it's a good investment, right? We can kind of turn the tide here and make people really want to be there and get more involved and be like, this is it. Let's make it the premier thing. We can make this be the big thing and be the national level it needs to be. Cardenas, like I said, does what he does, and thank God he's keeping this thing alive by putting some stuff out there. But he can't do it alone. This isn't a one man or woman job. This is a team's effort to do a lot of things. Everybody wants live stream stuff. You're going to see more anglers providing their own, and that's the only way you're going to get it. Unfortunately, NWT allows you to only do it on day 2, which I get it. On day 1, everybody's going to go back and watch it and know where you were at and blah, blah, blah. You might have a crowd the next day. Put in the rules like Bass does, says you are not allowed to see or watch any of this stuff. And if you do, it'll be known and you won't pass the polygraph if you win, and whatever the case, or whoever randomly does it. You can't enforce a lot of those things, but you can enforce them when they have to take polygraphs and you fail. So as long as you enforce the failure. But Starlink's getting a little cheaper. It's really the only way to do it right. If we lose connection, you're not supposed to reconnect. It really should be more encouraging on this front, because it's the anglers promoting what they're doing. Getting to watch them live, right? Whether you enjoy it or not, I know plenty of guys would be like, I would sign in because I had it built to be put on my website and you could watch it all day. It charge you $1, charge you nothing, whatever. Many people are like, I'd pay whatever and just to be able to watch your live stream all day long while you're on the water. Could be boring, could be exciting, who knows? But we can't do that. We can put it on Facebook or YouTube and tag the NWT so they know it's happening, I guess, maybe for whatever reason. And that's it. You can watch it there. I think a couple of guys, Tom Wynn's done them with his GoPro and a Starlink. Rickard's tried a couple. I did one at Erie just for a little bit before we got blew off. But that's usually the problem, is the Wi-Fi connection isn't very good. But with Starlink, you're pretty well set. The angler's got to invest into that. And honestly, when you're doing it and you're in charge of it while you're fishing, it's really just another thing to have to deal with and worry about. To do it right is to have someone back home who can start it, run it, but then you're dealing with another person who's not at work that day, and you got kind of a minor production company going on, which costs money, takes a lot of time. You won't compare it to Bass or MLF or Bass, Elite Series. We want to see this. Hundreds of multi-millions of dollars go into that stuff. You're never going to see that in the walleye world. Never. You're going to see guys doing it themselves. Very garage level, basement, that's it. That's the production level you're going to get, because most of us have to do it ourselves. and fish and be ready for the next day. So you can see the cuts that some guys are doing and then getting the stuff produced later. They're paying for that out of their pocket. Maybe they can get some sponsorship money to do it. Tour Level Gold's out there. That's, a big production. They do a great job. Watch those. You're not going to see that live stream, and you're not going to see that from many other anglers unless some companies pony up some dollars, like, Berkeley and Dakota Lithium, whoever else is sponsoring that Tour Level Gold. And that's great. That shows you a lot of behind the scenes, some of the best sticks out there, and very high quality. They do a great job of putting it together. Hard to beat that. So a lot of talented videographers out there. So if you're listening and you want some work, chime in. There is opportunities for you, but like I said, a lot of these anglers are having to pay for all that out of their own pocket. It's not cheap. And if you're not winning a lot of money, or you got to be really good at the sponsorship thing to try to find some way to plug it, and then a good way to promote that and get it out there. It's like the NWT needs to have a really good product to sell to sponsors to get the sponsors in there. And I don't think they have a great product to sell as it is right now, unfortunately. It's not bad, but it's a lot of the same stuff over and over, the same places. It lives on Facebook. Now there's more on YouTube, which is smart, bringing those shows back. There can be more, and I would ask for more if I was a sponsor of it. So 2026 schedule, Michigan, somewhere basically Lake Erie in April. May, Mobridge, South Dakota. June, Badenoch, Escanaba, Michigan. July, Oconto, I think. Green Bay or Marinette, one of those two. Wisconsin. And then August, I think, late August, Skakawea, North Dakota. So pretty good schedule. Really good fisheries. A lot of real big fish. Badenoch's not all that. I mean, it's an 8-10 hour drive or something like that for me, but whatever. I mean, it's only fair that us Western guys go east a little bit, and the East guys have to go way west to Skakawea. So, but that Dunkirk stuff and things like that just get a little crazy, considering nobody hardly lives out there. So, when majority of the field is in Minnesota, Wisconsin, I would say is a very large percentage of the anglers, and there's a 10% are probably South Dakota, North Dakota. So, anywho, chime in below. Let me know what you think about the schedule. Hopefully that gives you a little background on how that is all put together. It's just it's a bunch of words. Kind of feel like I'm rambling on, but I read all the comments and see the stuff, and I just you don't know what you don't know, and that's fair enough. And I don't know what all these. Some of this isn't facts. These are my opinion, the best of my knowledge. And between now and whenever this airs or next season starts, things will have changed. We may have new ownership. We may have new rules. We may have new management. Who knows? We may have new sponsors. We can only hope for more of those things to come. We always hope payouts increase and entry fees decrease. But usually that doesn't go that way. It usually goes hand in hand. Payouts increase, entry fees increase. I don't foresee any type of increases in anything coming up in the near future. I was told once that it should never exceed 2,000 for the pros. It may or may not. I don't know. But that's just the cost of things nowadays in the world we live in. I don't anticipate that you're going to see expenses ever come down a whole lot at this point. Boat prices are probably where they're at. So it's an investment. Invest in yourself. But be glad we got the circuit to fish. There's a lot of other options out there. We got AIM Next coming up. We got the Big Ten here in September. That happens every year up North Dakota. Great tournament, casino cups. There are a lot of smaller or still 100-boat tournaments, which are theoretically even bigger than NWT this year, that have smaller payouts, but they're smaller entry fees, and most of them are teams. These are great tournaments, and a lot of the same guys are fishing these things. So get in on those. They're fun. They can be a lot less stressful because there's not so much on the line. You put so much pressure on yourself. You're not going to win 100,000 or win a new boat, but you got to be a realist sometimes and be like, well, I've never been to this place anyway, so my chances are kind of slim. However, everybody's got a shot. But when you're going against, Eric McQuaid or someone, Isaac Lakich on Green Bay, it's like I know that I'm not competing against them in a sense because I'm not good on that body of water. But not to say you can't find it and get it. You should go in with the mindset you're going to win. But you also have to be a realist and be like, after day one, you'll have a good idea where you're at, or even at practice, be like, I'm just not on it. Man, I'm going to shoot for this weight, and hopefully that's good enough for a check. I mean, that happens to all of us. Get into that because you just didn't get it figured out. So practice is important. So, all right, folks, that is a wrap. Sorry, I'm rambling on. Just wanted to give you the insight on how this thing unfolds and is put together. Coming at you from the camper. Hope to be home here soon. So, a few more days of guiding down here on the mighty Missouri River at Lewis and Clark Lake at Lewis and Clark Resort. Doing Real Talk Fishing Podcast brought to you by Seagar High Performance Braids, 7 Reels, and Rufflin's Kennels, Clean Cut Cutting Stations. Stay safe, folks, and we will see you on the water.